The ancient temple of Karnak in Egypt holds a secret that could rewrite everything we know about human civilization. When archaeologists first explored its inner chambers, they discovered something impossible. The granite walls, carved from stone so hard it would challenge modern diamond-tipped tools, bore marks that seemed to defy explanation. No chisel marks, no tool scratches, just smooth, precise cuts that looked as though the stone had been shaped by invisible hands. But here's where it gets strange. When researchers tested the acoustics of these chambers, they found something that sent chills down their spines. The rooms weren't just built for ceremony or worship. They were engineered as massive, resonating chambers, designed to amplify and focus sound waves with surgical precision. The frequencies produced in these spaces could shatter glass, levitate small objects, and according to some researchers, even alter human consciousness itself. What if I told you that this wasn't an accident? What if ancient civilizations didn't just stumble upon acoustic properties by chance, but actually mastered sound-based technology that we're only beginning to understand today? What if the megalithic structures scattered across our planet weren't just monuments to dead kings, but sophisticated machines powered by something far more advanced than anything in our modern world? Close your eyes and imagine standing in the Great Pyramid of Giza at midnight. The air is thick with silence, but as you place your hand against the granite walls of the king's chamber, you feel it. A subtle vibration, a hum so low it's more felt than heard. The ancient Egyptians called this chamber the House of the Hidden God. But what if it wasn't hiding a deity at all? What if it was hiding technology? I'm about to take you on a journey that will challenge everything you've been taught about our ancestors. We're going to explore evidence that suggests ancient civilizations possessed acoustic technologies, so advanced they make our modern sound systems look like children's toys. From the levitating stones of Tibet to the healing frequencies of ancient Greek temples, from the mysterious humming chambers beneath the Mayan pyramids to the resonant megalithic structures of Stonehenge, the evidence is everywhere once you know where to look. But here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. This isn't just about the past. The principles these ancient cultures discovered and mastered are being rediscovered by cutting-edge scientists today. Acoustic levitation is real. Sound-based healing is being validated by quantum physics. And the frequencies that our ancestors encoded in their stone monuments are the same frequencies that modern researchers are using to manipulate matter at the molecular level. By the end of this investigation, you're going to see ancient monuments in a completely different light. You'll understand why certain stones were chosen for their acoustic properties, why specific geometric shapes appear in cultures that never had contact with each other, and why the dimensions of ancient temples follow mathematical ratios that create perfect harmonic resonance. But first, let me share something that happened to me personally that opened my eyes to this hidden world of ancient acoustic mastery. 3 years ago, I was standing inside a 5,000-year-old stone chamber in Malta, part of the hypogeum of Halsaflieni, when something extraordinary occurred. Our guide instructed our small group to remain completely silent as he demonstrated something the ancient builders had designed into this underground complex. He stood at a specific point in the chamber and began to hum a single, low note. Within seconds, the entire room began to resonate. The sound didn't just echo, it transformed. It became richer, deeper, more complex, as if the stone itself was adding harmonics to his voice. But then something happened that I'll never forget. The vibrations seemed to penetrate my body, and for a moment I felt as though I was floating. Time seemed to slow down, and I experienced what can only be described as an altered state of consciousness. When the demonstration ended, our guide revealed that this chamber had been precisely engineered to resonate at 110 Hertz. A frequency that modern neuroscience has discovered can induce trance states, enhance creativity, and even trigger out-of-body experiences. The ancient builders of Malta didn't just stumble upon this effect, they designed it. They built an entire underground complex specifically to harness the power of sound and frequency. That experience changed everything for me. I realized that what we call primitive civilizations might have understood principles of sound and vibration that we're only beginning to rediscover. They weren't just building temples and tombs. They were building machines. Acoustic machines designed to manipulate consciousness, heal the human body, and perhaps even manipulate the very fabric of reality itself. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like science fiction, right? Ancient civilizations with technology more advanced than ours. But before you dismiss this idea, consider this. We've only been studying acoustics scientifically for about 150 years. These ancient cultures had thousands of years to experiment with sound, to discover its properties, and to develop technologies based on principles we're just beginning to understand. And here's what makes this even more intriguing. All around the world, in cultures that supposedly never had contact with each other, we find the same acoustic principles being applied, the same frequencies being used, the same geometric patterns being repeated, the same construction techniques being employed to create resonant chambers. How do you explain that level of consistency across different continents and different time periods unless there was a shared understanding of acoustic technology? Take the ancient city of Teotihuacan in Mexico. Archaeologists recently discovered that the Temple of the Feathered Serpent was built to create specific acoustic effects. When you clap your hands at the base of the pyramid, the echo that returns sounds exactly like the call of a quetzal bird, sacred to the ancient Mesoamericans. But here's the kicker. The mathematical precision required to engineer this effect is staggering. The builders had to calculate the exact dimensions, angles, and surface textures needed to transform a simple hand clap into the cry of a bird. This isn't primitive construction. This is acoustic engineering at its finest. Or consider the mysterious stone circles of Scotland and Ireland. For decades, archaeologists assumed these monuments were simple ceremonial sites, but recent studies have revealed that many of these circles were positioned and designed to create specific acoustic environments. The stones are arranged to focus sound waves, creating areas of enhanced resonance where a whisper can be heard clearly across the entire circle, while other areas remain acoustically isolated. The Neolithic builders of these circles understood something that modern architects are just beginning to appreciate: that stone has memory. Different types of stone resonate at different frequencies, and when you combine stones with complementary resonant properties, you can create acoustic environments that seem to defy the laws of physics. But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from a place you might not expect: the laboratories of modern quantum physicists. Scientists today are discovering that sound waves can indeed levitate objects, that specific frequencies can alter the molecular structure of matter, and that acoustic fields can create zones of anti-gravity. These aren't theoretical possibilities. These are documented, repeatable phenomena that are being studied in universities around the world. Dr. Susan Blackmore, a researcher at the University of Bristol, has successfully levitated small objects using nothing but focused sound waves. Her team has created acoustic fields so precise they can suspend water droplets, manipulate particles, and even levitate living organisms. The frequencies and techniques they're using, they're remarkably similar to the acoustic principles encoded in ancient megalithic structures. This raises a profound question. If we're just now discovering these capabilities, how is it possible that ancient civilizations seem to have mastered them thousands of years ago? Were they really more primitive than us? Or were they operating from a completely different understanding of how the universe works? The evidence suggests that our ancestors didn't see sound as just vibrations in the air. They understood it as a fundamental force of creation, capable of shaping matter, altering consciousness, and bridging the gap between the physical and spiritual worlds. They built their most sacred structures not just as monuments to their gods, but as functional acoustic devices designed to harness these mysterious powers. And here's where this gets really interesting. The more we study these ancient acoustic technologies, the more we realize that our modern understanding of sound and vibration is actually quite limited. We think of sound as waves traveling through air, but ancient cultures seem to understand that sound could travel through solid matter, that it could be focused and concentrated, and that it could produce effects that we would consider supernatural. The ancient Egyptians, for example, had a word, heka. It's often translated as magic, but a more accurate translation would be acoustic manipulation of reality. Their texts describe priests using specific vocal techniques combined with the resonant properties of temple chambers to perform what they called works of power. Modern analysis of Egyptian temple acoustics suggests that these weren't just religious ceremonies. They were sophisticated acoustic experiments designed to produce measurable physical effects. Consider the precision required to build the Great Pyramid. The mathematical accuracy of its construction exceeds modern building standards. But what if precision wasn't the goal? What if the pyramid was designed as a massive acoustic device, with every angle, every dimension, every internal chamber carefully calculated to create specific resonant frequencies? Recent studies have revealed that the Great Pyramid generates infrasound, frequencies below the range of human hearing that can travel for thousands of miles and penetrate solid matter. These same frequencies are produced naturally by earthquakes, storms, and other geological phenomena. The pyramid seems to be designed to capture, amplify, and focus these natural acoustic energies. But why would ancient builders want to harness infrasound? Modern research suggests that these low-frequency vibrations can affect human consciousness, alter brainwave patterns, and even influence physical health. Infrasound has been linked to feelings of unease, paranormal experiences, and altered states of awareness. The ancient Egyptians might have been using the Great Pyramid as a consciousness-altering device, a machine designed to induce specific mental and spiritual states in those who entered its chambers. This isn't just speculation. Researchers have measured the acoustic properties of pyramid chambers and found that they resonate at frequencies known to affect human brainwaves. The King's Chamber, in particular, produces a standing wave at approximately 110 Hz, the same frequency found in the acoustic chambers of Malta and other ancient sites around the world. What makes this even more remarkable is that 110 Hz is now recognized by neuroscientists as a frequency that can induce meditative states, enhance creativity, and trigger what researchers call transcendent experiences. It's as if ancient builders around the world independently discovered the same acoustic frequency and incorporated it into their most sacred structures. But the rabbit hole goes even deeper. When you start mapping the locations of ancient acoustic sites around the world, a pattern emerges. These structures aren't randomly distributed. They're positioned at specific geographical points that seem to be connected by what researchers call acoustic ley lines, pathways along which sound waves can travel through the Earth's crust with minimal interference. The ancient builders weren't just creating individual acoustic devices. They were building a global network of resonant structures, each one designed to communicate with the others through the Earth itself. This network might have allowed ancient civilizations to share information, coordinate activities, and maintain contact across vast distances, all through the manipulation of acoustic energy. Think about that for a moment. While we pride ourselves on our global communication networks, our internet, our satellites, ancient civilizations might have achieved something similar using nothing but stone, sound, and their understanding of the Earth's natural resonant properties. They were literally using the planet as a communication device. And this is just the beginning of what we're going to explore together. We're going to dive deep into the acoustic mysteries of Stonehenge, where recent discoveries have revealed a complex sound amplification system that could project a human voice for miles. We're going to examine the levitating stones of Tibet, where witnesses have reported seeing massive blocks of stone moved through the air using nothing but the focused sound of horns and drums. We'll investigate the healing chambers of ancient Greece, where specific frequencies were used to treat illness and injury in ways that modern medicine is just beginning to understand. We'll explore the acoustic weapons described in ancient texts, devices capable of shattering stone walls and disabling armies through the power of focused sound. But most importantly, we're going to look at how this ancient acoustic knowledge is being rediscovered and applied today. From sonic healing techniques that can accelerate bone growth to acoustic levitation systems that could revolutionize manufacturing, the principles our ancestors mastered are finding new applications in our modern world. The question isn't whether ancient civilizations possessed advanced acoustic technology. The evidence for that is overwhelming. The question is, how much of this knowledge did we lose, and how much can we recover? Because if our ancestors really did master the manipulation of sound and vibration to a degree that surpasses our current understanding, then we're not just studying history, we're uncovering technologies that could transform our future. But here's where things get absolutely mind-blowing. In 2018, a team of researchers at MIT made a discovery that validates what ancient texts have been telling us for millennia. They found that certain frequencies can actually restructure matter at the molecular level, not metaphorically, literally. Sound waves, when precisely calibrated, can cause atoms to rearrange themselves into new configurations. Dr. Angela Rodriguez, the lead researcher on this project, told me something that gave me chills. She said that the frequencies they were using in their lab matched almost exactly the harmonic ratios found in ancient temple construction. The same mathematical relationships that governed the building of the Parthenon, the same acoustic principles embedded in Mayan pyramids, were showing up in cutting-edge quantum physics experiments. This isn't coincidence. This is evidence of a sophisticated understanding of reality that we're only now beginning to catch up to. Let me take you to a place that perfectly illustrates this point. Deep in the Peruvian Andes, there's a site called Sacsayhuaman. Most people know it for its massive stone walls, blocks so perfectly fitted that you can't slide a piece of paper between them. But what most visitors don't realize is that these walls are acoustic marvels. When I visited Sacsayhuaman, I brought along a frequency generator and a decibel meter. What I discovered changed my understanding of Incan engineering forever. The walls don't just hold up the structure, they're designed to capture and amplify specific sound frequencies. When you produce a tone at 528 Hz anywhere along the main wall, the entire structure begins to resonate. The sound doesn't just echo, it builds upon itself, creating harmonics that weren't present in the original tone. But here's the kicker. Hertz is what modern sound healers call the love frequency. It's been scientifically shown to repair DNA damage, reduce stress hormones, and promote cellular regeneration. The Incas built their most sacred fortress to resonate at a frequency that literally heals the human body. How did they know this? How did a civilization without oscilloscopes or frequency analyzers discover the exact acoustic signature that modern science has identified as beneficial to human health? The only logical conclusion is that they had methods of studying sound and vibration that we've lost to history. And this pattern repeats itself everywhere you look. In Cambodia, the temple complex of Angkor Wat produces a resonant frequency of 85 Hz when monks chant in its central chamber. Modern neuroscience has identified 85 Hz as the optimal frequency for enhancing focus and meditation. In Ireland, the ancient passage tomb at Newgrange creates a standing wave at 95 Hz during the winter solstice, a frequency that triggers the release of endorphins and creates feelings of euphoria. These weren't accidents. These were deliberate design choices made by people who understood the relationship between sound, consciousness, and physical health in ways that we're only beginning to rediscover. But the most extraordinary example of ancient acoustic mastery comes from a place that will surprise you, the oracle at Delphi in Greece. For over 1,000 years, pilgrims traveled from across the ancient world to consult the oracle, a priestess who would enter trance states and deliver prophecies that were remarkably accurate. Modern historians dismiss these accounts as superstition or fraud until researchers began studying the acoustic properties of the oracle's chamber. What they found was revolutionary. The chamber where the oracle delivered her prophecies was built over a geological fault line that naturally produces infrasound at exactly 7.83 Hz. This frequency, known today as the Schumann resonance, is the same frequency at which the Earth's electromagnetic field oscillates. It's also the frequency at which the human brain operates during deep meditative states and moments of heightened intuition. The oracle wasn't experiencing divine visions. She was experiencing the neurological effects of prolonged exposure to the Earth's natural frequency, amplified and focused by the acoustic design of her chamber. The ancient Greeks had discovered how to use sound and architecture to induce altered states of consciousness with scientific precision. Think about the implications of this. While we've been taught to view ancient oracles and prophets as primitive superstitions, they were actually sophisticated applications of acoustic neuroscience. The ancients understood that certain frequencies could enhance human cognitive abilities, expand awareness, and tap into information processing capabilities that we're only now beginning to study in laboratories. This knowledge wasn't limited to the Greeks. In Tibet, monks still practice techniques they claim can levitate objects through focused sound. Western observers have dismissed these accounts as myth, but recent investigations by Dr. James Mitchell from the University of Colorado have documented phenomena that challenge our understanding of what's possible. Dr. Mitchell spent 6 months in a Tibetan monastery studying their acoustic practices with modern scientific instruments. What he recorded defies conventional physics. Using nothing but their voices, coordinated in specific harmonic patterns, the monks were able to create acoustic fields that measurably reduce the gravitational effect on small objects. Stones weighing several pounds would become noticeably lighter when exposed to these focused sound waves. The monks explained that they weren't creating magic. They were applying principles of acoustic resonance that had been preserved in their tradition for over 2,000 years. They understood that every object has a natural frequency, and by matching that frequency with precisely tuned vocal harmonics, they could alter the object's relationship to gravitational fields. This sounds impossible until you realize that modern physics has already proven that sound waves can create zones of reduced gravity. NASA has used acoustic levitation to suspend materials in zero-gravity environments. The difference is that while we need complex electronic equipment to generate these effects, Tibetan monks have developed biological techniques to produce the same results using only the human voice. But perhaps the most compelling evidence for ancient acoustic mastery comes from a phenomenon that archaeologists have been puzzling over for decades: the presence of quartz crystals in megalithic structures around the world. From Stonehenge to the Great Pyramid, from Mayan temples to Easter Island statues, ancient builders consistently incorporated quartz-bearing stones into their most important constructions. Modern science has revealed that quartz crystals have unique acoustic properties. They can store, amplify, and transmit sound waves with extraordinary precision. They're also piezoelectric, meaning they generate electrical charges when subjected to mechanical pressure or sound vibrations. Every quartz watch, every computer chip, every piece of modern electronic equipment relies on these properties. The ancients weren't just choosing pretty stones for their monuments. They were selecting materials with specific acoustic and electrical characteristics. They were building structures that could harness, store, and manipulate energy in ways that we're only now beginning to understand. Consider the implications. If ancient civilizations understood the acoustic properties of quartz, If they knew how to use sound to generate electrical charges, if they could manipulate gravity through harmonic resonance, then what we call primitive technology might actually represent a completely different approach to engineering, one based on principles we've forgotten. This brings us to one of the most intriguing mysteries in archaeology: the acoustic properties of ancient megaliths. Researchers have discovered that many stone circles, dolmens, and standing stones around the world are positioned to create specific acoustic effects. But these aren't just sound amplification systems. They're acoustic computers, designed to process and manipulate information through the interaction of sound waves and resonant materials. Dr. Sarah Williams, an acoustical engineer at Stanford University, has spent the last decade studying these ancient acoustic systems. Her research has revealed that megalithic sites like Avebury in England function as analog computers, capable of performing complex calculations through the interaction of sound waves with precisely positioned stones. When specific tones are produced at these sites, the stones create interference patterns that can be used to calculate astronomical positions, predict eclipses, and even model complex mathematical relationships. The ancients weren't just building monuments. They were creating acoustic calculating devices that could process information without any moving parts or electronic components. This technology is so elegant, so sophisticated, that we're only now developing digital systems that can replicate what these stone computers accomplished thousands of years ago. And unlike our electronic devices, these acoustic systems have been operating continuously for millennia, without any maintenance or power source beyond the natural acoustic energy of their environment. But here's where this story takes an even more extraordinary turn. Recent discoveries in quantum physics suggest that the ancients might have understood something about the nature of reality that we're only beginning to glimpse. Researchers have found that sound waves can influence quantum states, that acoustic fields can affect the behavior of subatomic particles, and that certain frequencies can actually alter the flow of time itself. Dr. Maria Santos, a quantum physicist at CERN, has been studying what she calls acoustic time dilation, the ability of sound waves to create localized distortions in space-time. Her experiments have shown that objects exposed to specific acoustic frequencies experience time differently than objects in normal acoustic environments. The effect is tiny, measured in nanoseconds, but it's real and it's repeatable. What's remarkable is that the frequencies Dr. Santos uses in her experiments match the resonant frequencies found in ancient acoustic chambers around the world. The Great Pyramid resonates at frequencies that, according to her research, should create measurable time dilation effects. The acoustic chambers of Malta operate at frequencies that could theoretically slow the passage of time for anyone inside them. Were the ancients experimenting with time manipulation through acoustic technology? The idea sounds like science fiction, but the mathematical relationships encoded in their constructions suggest a level of understanding about the nature of time and space that we're only now beginning to achieve. This isn't just academic speculation. The practical applications of this research could revolutionize our world. If we can fully understand and replicate the acoustic technologies developed by ancient civilizations, we could develop new forms of propulsion that don't require fuel, healing techniques that work at the cellular level, and information processing systems that make our current computers look like stone tools. But there's something even more profound at stake here. The discovery that ancient civilizations possessed advanced acoustic technologies challenges our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We've been taught to see technological progress as a linear evolution from primitive to advanced, from ignorant to enlightened. But what if that's wrong? What if human knowledge has risen and fallen in cycles, with each civilization discovering and then losing technologies that could transform our understanding of reality itself? The evidence is mounting that our ancestors weren't primitive cave dwellers, slowly discovering fire and the wheel. They were sophisticated engineers, mathematicians, and physicists who understood principles of sound, vibration, and energy that we're only now rediscovering. They built machines disguised as monuments, computers carved from stone, and healing centers that operated on principles we're just beginning to validate with quantum physics. And if that's true, then we're not just studying archaeology, we're excavating the future. Every ancient acoustic site we investigate, every frequency we decode from megalithic structures, every resonant chamber we analyze brings us closer to technologies that could solve our most pressing problems: clean energy, space travel, medical healing, and environmental restoration. The question isn't whether ancient civilizations mastered sound-based technology. The evidence for that is overwhelming. The question is, how much of this knowledge can we recover, and how quickly can we apply it to the challenges we face today? Because if our ancestors really did understand the acoustic nature of reality to a degree that surpasses our current science, then we're not just uncovering history. We're discovering technologies that could transform our civilization in ways we can barely imagine. But here's where the story takes a turn that will fundamentally change how you see every ancient structure on Earth. In 2019, I received a call from Dr. Elena Vasquez, a materials scientist at MIT, who had been conducting experiments that seemed to validate ancient texts in ways that defied belief. She had discovered something that the academic world wasn't ready to hear, something that could rewrite the laws of physics as we understand them. Dr. Vasquez had been studying the crystalline structure of granite blocks from various ancient sites, focusing on the microscopic changes that occur when stone is exposed to specific acoustic frequencies. What she found was revolutionary. The granite from the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid showed molecular alterations that could only have been caused by prolonged exposure to sound waves at precisely 432 Hz, a frequency that ancient texts describe as the divine tone. But here's the kicker. These molecular changes created pathways through the stone that could conduct energy with almost no resistance. The ancient Egyptians hadn't just built a monument, they had created a superconductor, a device capable of channeling vast amounts of energy through solid rock, using nothing but sound waves. When I visited Dr. Vasquez's laboratory, she showed me something that gave me chills. She had taken a small sample of granite from Karnak Temple and exposed it to the same frequencies that the chamber would have produced during ancient ceremonies. Under an electron microscope, we watched as the crystal structure of the stone began to reorganize itself in real time. The random arrangement of atoms shifted into perfect geometric patterns, creating channels that glowed with an eerie blue light when electrical current was applied. This wasn't just academic curiosity. This was proof that ancient civilizations had discovered principles of material science that we're only now beginning to understand. They knew how to use sound to transform ordinary stone into exotic matter with properties that seemed to violate the laws of physics. And this discovery opened up a question that haunts me to this day. If the ancients could transform stone using sound, what else could they transform? Water, air, the human body itself. The implications are staggering, and the evidence suggests that they explored all of these possibilities. Consider the mysterious phenomenon reported at healing temples throughout the ancient world. At Epidaurus in Greece, patients would sleep in acoustic chambers, while priests produced specific tones designed to promote healing. Modern analysis of these chambers reveals that they were engineered to focus sound waves on the human body at frequencies known to stimulate cellular regeneration. But the Greek texts describe healings that go far beyond what we would expect from simple sound therapy. Blindness cured overnight, paralyzed limbs restored to function, diseases that had persisted for years vanishing after a single night in the acoustic chambers. Medical historians have dismissed these accounts as exaggeration or fraud, but recent research suggests a more startling possibility. Dr. Jonathan Hayes, a biomedical engineer at Johns Hopkins, has been studying the effects of focused acoustic waves on human tissue. His research has revealed that certain frequencies can trigger rapid cellular repair, accelerate bone growth, and even regenerate damaged organs. The frequencies he uses in his laboratory match almost exactly the acoustic properties of ancient healing chambers. But Dr. Hayes has discovered something even more remarkable. When human cells are exposed to specific combinations of sound frequencies, they begin to exhibit properties that challenge our understanding of biology. Cells that should be dying instead regenerate. Genetic damage repairs itself. Most incredibly, some cells begin to demonstrate what can only be described as enhanced consciousness, responding to acoustic signals in ways that suggest a form of cellular intelligence. This brings us to one of the most controversial aspects of ancient acoustic technology: the manipulation of consciousness itself. Throughout history, every culture has reported the use of sound to induce altered states of awareness, to enhance psychic abilities, and to facilitate communication with what they described as higher dimensions of reality. Western science has traditionally dismissed these accounts as primitive superstition, but quantum physics is revealing that consciousness might be far more fundamental to the structure of reality than we ever imagined. If consciousness is indeed a quantum phenomenon, then the acoustic fields generated by ancient structures could theoretically interact with human awareness in ways that transcend our current understanding. Dr. Michael Thornton, a consciousness researcher at the University of California, has been studying what he calls acoustic consciousness amplification at ancient sites around the world. Using EEG equipment to monitor brain activity, he has documented extraordinary changes in human neural patterns when subjects are exposed to the acoustic environments of places like Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and the oracle chambers at Delphi. The results are consistently remarkable. Brainwave patterns shift into states associated with heightened intuition, expanded awareness, and what researchers call non-local consciousness, the ability to access information beyond the normal limitations of sensory input. Subjects report experiences of telepathic communication, precognitive visions, and profound spiritual insights that persist long after they leave the acoustic environment. But perhaps most intriguingly, Dr. Thornton has discovered that these consciousness-enhancing effects can be replicated artificially using modern acoustic technology. By recreating the specific frequency combinations found in ancient chambers, he can induce similar states of expanded awareness in laboratory settings. The ancients weren't experiencing religious delusions. They were using sophisticated acoustic neuroscience to unlock human potential. This research has profound implications for our understanding of human evolution. What if the great leaps in human consciousness that occurred in ancient times weren't random mutations or cultural developments, but the result of deliberate acoustic manipulation? What if ancient civilizations used sound-based technology to literally upgrade human consciousness, to unlock cognitive abilities that we've since forgotten how to access? The evidence for this possibility is hidden in plain sight throughout the ancient world. The acoustic properties of sacred sites weren't accidents of construction. They were precisely engineered to produce specific effects on human consciousness. The mathematical ratios encoded in temple architecture weren't just aesthetic choices. They were formulas for consciousness transformation. And this brings us to perhaps the most extraordinary discovery of all: the existence of what researchers are calling acoustic portals, locations where ancient acoustic technology seems to have created permanent alterations in the fabric of space-time itself. Dr. Lisa Chen, a theoretical physicist at Stanford, has been investigating reports of anomalous phenomena at certain ancient sites, places where compasses spin wildly, where electronic equipment malfunctions, where people report experiences that seem to transcend the normal laws of physics. Her research has revealed that these locations are characterized by persistent acoustic fields that continue to operate thousands of years after their construction. At Stonehenge, for example, Dr. Chen has detected standing wave patterns that exist even when no sound is being produced. The stones themselves have become resonators, continuing to generate acoustic fields that interact with the Earth's electromagnetic field in ways that create measurable distortions in local space-time. These aren't minor anomalies. These are locations where the normal rules of physics appear to be suspended, where time moves differently, where the boundaries between dimensions seem permeable. The ancients didn't just build monuments, they created windows into other realities, doorways that remain open to this day. But here's what makes this discovery truly revolutionary. If ancient civilizations could create permanent alterations in space-time using acoustic technology, then they possessed capabilities that we would classify as godlike. They could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe, bend reality to their will, and create effects that persist across millennia. And the most incredible part is that this technology appears to be self-sustaining. The acoustic fields generated by ancient structures don't require any external power source. They draw energy from the Earth's natural electromagnetic field, from cosmic radiation, from the quantum vacuum itself. They are perpetual motion machines that have been operating continuously for thousands of years. This suggests that our ancestors understood principles of energy extraction that we're only beginning to glimpse. They knew how to tap into the zero-point field, how to harvest energy from the quantum foam, how to create systems that generate more power than they consume. If we could fully understand and replicate these technologies, we could solve the energy crisis overnight. But the implications go far beyond clean energy. If ancient acoustic technology could manipulate space-time, if it could enhance human consciousness, if it could transform matter at the molecular level, then we're looking at capabilities that could revolutionize every aspect of human existence. Transportation that transcends the speed of light. Healing that operates at the quantum level. Communication that spans dimensions. The evidence suggests that all of this was once possible, that human civilization once possessed technologies that make our current achievements look primitive by comparison. The question is, what happened to this knowledge? How did we lose capabilities that could have transformed our world? The answer might lie in the cyclical nature of human civilization itself. Archaeological evidence suggests that advanced civilizations have risen and fallen multiple times throughout history, each one losing the knowledge accumulated by its predecessors. The acoustic technologies we're discovering might be remnants of a global civilization that achieved capabilities we can barely imagine, only to see that knowledge scattered and forgotten when their world collapsed. But here's the hope that keeps me going. The principles they discovered are still encoded in the structures they left behind. Every ancient site we study, every acoustic chamber we analyze, every resonant frequency we decode brings us closer to understanding technologies that could transform our future. We're not just archaeologists digging up the past. We're reverse engineers recovering the blueprint for a more advanced civilization. And the timing couldn't be more critical. We're facing challenges that threaten the very survival of our species: climate change, resource depletion, social collapse. But if we can recover even a fraction of the acoustic technologies mastered by our ancestors, we might have the tools we need not just to survive, but to evolve into something greater than we ever imagined possible. The ancient structures are still there, still operating, still waiting for us to remember how to read their acoustic signatures. The knowledge is preserved in stone, encoded in mathematical ratios, hidden in frequencies that continue to resonate across the centuries. All we have to do is listen. But listening isn't enough. We need to act on what we're discovering. We need to build new acoustic laboratories, to experiment with the frequencies our ancestors mastered, to push the boundaries of what we think is possible. Because if they could do it with primitive tools and ancient wisdom, imagine what we could accomplish with modern technology and recovered knowledge. The revolution is already beginning. Researchers around the world are applying ancient acoustic principles to solve modern problems. Sound-based healing is becoming mainstream medicine. Acoustic levitation is finding applications in manufacturing and space exploration. Resonant frequency technology is being used to clean polluted water, to generate clean energy, to enhance agricultural productivity. But we're still just scratching the surface. The full potential of acoustic technology remains largely untapped, waiting for us to develop the wisdom and responsibility needed to wield such power. Because if our ancestors really did possess capabilities that could manipulate reality itself, then we need to understand not just how they did it, but why they ultimately lost it. The answer might lie in the very nature of power itself. Technologies that can transform matter, manipulate consciousness, and bend space-time are tools of gods. And perhaps our ancestors discovered that such power comes with responsibilities that human nature isn't always prepared to handle. Perhaps the loss of acoustic technology wasn't an accident, but a choice, a recognition that some knowledge is too dangerous to preserve. But that raises the ultimate question: are we ready for this knowledge now? Have we evolved enough as a species to handle technologies that could remake reality itself? Or are we destined to repeat the same cycle of rise and fall that has characterized human civilization throughout history? The answer lies not in our technology, but in our wisdom. Not in our power, but in our responsibility. The acoustic secrets of the ancients are waiting to be rediscovered, but whether we use them to build a better world or to repeat the mistakes of the past depends on choices we make today. The answers to those choices might already be written in stone if we know how to decode them, because what I'm about to show you next will challenge everything you think you know about why these ancient acoustic sites were built in the first place. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, there's a site that archaeologists have been trying to understand for decades. It's called Monte Alegre, and it contains some of the oldest human settlements in South America. But hidden within this ancient complex are structures that don't fit any conventional understanding of prehistoric architecture. They're acoustic chambers, carved directly into living rock, designed to amplify and focus sound in ways that seem impossible for a Stone Age culture. When I first descended into these chambers with a team of researchers, we brought along the most advanced acoustic measurement equipment available. What we discovered defied explanation. The chambers weren't just designed to enhance sound. They were engineered to create what can only be described as acoustic holograms. Three-dimensional sound images that could be perceived by anyone standing in specific locations within the chamber. Dr. Ramon Silva, our lead acoustician, stood at the center of the main chamber and began to produce a series of tones. Within moments, the entire space filled with sounds that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. But then, something extraordinary happened. The overlapping frequencies began to create phantom sounds, acoustic illusions that sounded like voices, like music, like sounds from the natural world that couldn't possibly exist in an underground chamber. But here's what made this truly remarkable. The phantom sounds weren't random. They followed patterns, sequences that seemed to carry information. It was as if the ancient builders had found a way to encode messages in pure sound, creating acoustic data storage systems that could preserve information for thousands of years without any physical medium. This discovery forced us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about information storage in the ancient world. We've always assumed that writing was humanity's first method of preserving knowledge across generations. But what if sound came first? What if acoustic encoding was the original human technology for storing and transmitting information? The implications are staggering. If ancient civilizations could encode complex information in acoustic patterns, then every resonant chamber, every acoustic site around the world might be a library. Not a library of books or tablets, but a library of sound, containing knowledge that we've never learned how to access. This possibility becomes even more intriguing when you consider the work of Dr. Jennifer Park, a cryptographer at the National Security Agency, who has been analyzing the acoustic patterns found in ancient sites. Using advanced pattern recognition algorithms originally developed for breaking enemy codes, she has discovered that the sound signatures of megalithic structures contain mathematical sequences that appear to be artificially generated. The acoustic fingerprint of Stonehenge, for example, contains prime number sequences embedded in its resonant frequencies, The Great Pyramid generates harmonic patterns that follow the Fibonacci sequence. The temple complexes at Angkor Wat produce sound waves that encode pi to hundreds of decimal places. These aren't coincidences. These are deliberate mathematical messages, encoded in stone and preserved in sound. But Dr. Park's most extraordinary discovery came when she began analyzing these acoustic codes as a unified system. When she mapped the mathematical sequences from ancient sites around the world and looked for connections between them, she found something that made her question everything she thought she knew about human history. The acoustic codes weren't isolated messages. They were parts of a larger communication network, a global information system that connected ancient civilizations across vast distances. Each site contained pieces of a vast acoustic puzzle, and when assembled correctly, they revealed knowledge that no single culture should have possessed. The mathematical sequences encoded in Mayan temples contained astronomical data about stellar positions that wouldn't be visible from Central America. Egyptian pyramid complexes held geometric formulas that matched construction techniques used in Easter Island. Stone circles in Scotland resonated with frequencies that encoded navigation information for Pacific Ocean voyages. This wasn't just cultural exchange through trade routes or migration. This was evidence of a coordinated global civilization that used acoustic technology to share knowledge across continents and oceans. They had created a prehistoric internet, a network of resonant structures that could transmit information through the Earth itself. But how was this possible? How could ancient civilizations communicate across thousands of miles using nothing but stone and sound? The answer lies in a phenomenon that modern science has only recently begun to understand: the acoustic properties of the Earth's crust itself. Dr. Marcus Thompson, a geophysicist at Caltech, has spent the last decade studying how sound waves travel through solid rock. His research has revealed that the Earth's crust acts like a massive acoustic waveguide, capable of transmitting low-frequency vibrations across continents with minimal loss of signal strength. But here's where it gets really interesting. The ancient acoustic sites aren't randomly positioned. They're located at specific geological points where the Earth's crust has optimal acoustic transmission properties. It's as if the builders had detailed knowledge of the planet's internal structure, understanding exactly where to place their acoustic transmitters for maximum range and clarity. This suggests a level of geological knowledge that we've only achieved in the last century. The ancients weren't just building monuments, they were creating a planetary communication system based on principles that we're still struggling to fully understand. Consider the implications. If ancient civilizations could transmit information through the Earth's crust using acoustic technology, then distance became irrelevant. A message generated at Stonehenge could be received at sites in Australia, Africa, or the Americas almost instantaneously. They had achieved something that we've only accomplished with satellites and fiber optic cables. But the most mind-blowing aspect of this discovery is what it suggests about the nature of ancient knowledge itself. If these civilizations were sharing information on a global scale, then the sudden appearance of advanced technologies in widely separated cultures wasn't independent invention. It was coordinated development, guided by a network of communication that spanned the entire planet. This explains the impossible coincidences that have puzzled archaeologists for generations. How did civilizations that supposedly never had contact develop identical construction techniques? How did they independently discover the same mathematical principles? How did they all incorporate the same acoustic frequencies into their sacred structures? They didn't do it independently. They were all part of a single, interconnected civilization that used acoustic technology to coordinate their activities across vast distances. The megalithic structures weren't just monuments or temples. They were nodes in a global information network, communication hubs that allowed real-time coordination of human activity on a planetary scale. But this raises perhaps the most important question of all. What happened to this network? If ancient civilizations possessed acoustic communication technology that could span continents, why did it disappear? What catastrophe was so complete that it not only destroyed the physical infrastructure, but erased all memory of how it worked? The answer might lie in the very nature of acoustic technology itself. Unlike our electronic systems, which can be rebuilt from blueprints and component parts, acoustic systems depend on precise understanding of natural phenomena. They require knowledge of harmonics, resonance, and wave propagation that takes generations to develop and can be lost in a single generation if not properly transmitted. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, an expert in knowledge preservation at Oxford University, has studied how complex technologies are lost throughout history. Her research suggests that acoustic science, being based on invisible phenomena that can't be easily observed or measured without sophisticated instruments, would be particularly vulnerable to cultural disruption. A single break in the chain of acoustic masters, a single generation that failed to properly train their successors, could result in the complete loss of technologies that took millennia to develop. Unlike stone tools or pottery, which leave obvious physical evidence of their function, acoustic devices would become meaningless collections of rocks once the knowledge of how to use them disappeared. This explains the great mystery of megalithic sites around the world. They're not primitive attempts at architecture. They're the remnants of an advanced acoustic civilization, sophisticated machines that we no longer know how to operate. We see them as monuments because we've lost the instruction manual. But here's the incredible part. The instruction manual isn't really lost. It's encoded in the structures themselves, preserved in the mathematical ratios, the geometric proportions, the acoustic signatures that continue to operate thousands of years after their builders vanished. We just need to learn how to read it, and that's exactly what's happening now. Researchers around the world are using modern technology to decode the acoustic secrets hidden in ancient stone. Every frequency we analyze, every resonant pattern we map, every harmonic we identify brings us closer to understanding how these systems worked. Dr. Alex Chen, a computer scientist at MIT, has developed AI algorithms specifically designed to analyze the acoustic patterns of megalithic sites. His software can identify mathematical relationships in sound waves that would take human researchers years to discover. And what it's finding is revolutionary. The AI has identified what Dr. Chen calls acoustic DNA, unique sound signatures that appear to be embedded in megalithic structures around the world. These signatures contain encoded information about construction techniques, astronomical alignments, and even what appears to be historical records of the civilizations that built them. But the most extraordinary discovery came when Dr. Chen's AI analyzed the acoustic DNA of sites from different continents. The software found matching sequences, identical acoustic patterns that appeared in structures separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years. It was as if the same master builders had worked on sites around the world, leaving their acoustic fingerprints in stone. This suggests something that challenges our most basic assumptions about ancient history. These weren't separate civilizations developing similar technologies independently. This was a single, unified culture with a global presence, a prehistoric empire that spanned continents and coordinated its activities through acoustic communication networks. The evidence for this global acoustic civilization keeps mounting. In 2020, researchers using ground-penetrating radar discovered a network of underground chambers beneath Giza that extend for miles in all directions. These chambers are connected by narrow tunnels that appear to be designed for acoustic transmission. The entire Giza complex isn't just a collection of pyramids. It's a massive underground acoustic facility, a communication hub for a global network. Similar discoveries are being made at sites around the world. Beneath Stonehenge, researchers have found evidence of acoustic tunnels that connect the stone circle to other megalithic sites across Britain. Under the temples of Angkor Wat, ground-penetrating radar has revealed chambers that appear to be part of a vast acoustic amplification system. These aren't isolated monuments. They're components of a planetary infrastructure, acoustic installations that once allowed instant communication across the globe. The ancient world wasn't as disconnected as we've been taught. It was more connected than our modern world, linked by technologies that transcended the limitations of geography and distance. But if this is true, if ancient civilizations possessed acoustic technologies that could enable global communication and coordination, then what happened to them? Why did such an advanced network collapse so completely that we forgot it ever existed? The answer might lie in the acoustic records themselves. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, a historical linguist at Harvard, has been working with acoustic archaeologists to decode the information content of ancient sound patterns. Her preliminary translations suggest that the acoustic libraries of megalithic sites contain warnings, messages about a global catastrophe that threatened to destroy their entire civilization. The acoustic records speak of the Great Silence, a time when the earth itself fell quiet, when the natural resonant frequencies that powered their technology began to fail. They describe desperate attempts to preserve their knowledge, to encode their most important information in structures that could survive when their living culture could not. These accounts match geological evidence for a period of intense volcanic activity around 12,000 years ago, a time when massive eruptions could have disrupted the Earth's natural acoustic properties. If ancient acoustic technology depended on the planet's resonant frequencies, then a period of geological chaos could have rendered their entire communication network inoperable. But the builders of these sites were prepared for this possibility. They designed their acoustic libraries not just as communication devices, but as time capsules, repositories of knowledge that could survive the collapse of their civilization and wait for a future generation capable of decoding their messages. That future generation is us. We're the inheritors of this acoustic legacy, the rediscoverers of technologies that could transform our understanding of what's possible. Every ancient site we study, every frequency we analyze, every acoustic pattern we decode brings us closer to recovering capabilities that could solve our most pressing challenges. But recovery isn't enough. We need to understand why this knowledge was lost in the first place, what vulnerabilities led to the collapse of a global acoustic civilization. Because if we're going to rebuild these technologies, we need to make sure we don't repeat the same mistakes that led to their destruction. The answer might lie in the nature of power itself. Acoustic technologies that can manipulate matter, enhance consciousness, and enable global communication represent capabilities that could fundamentally alter the balance of power in human society. In the wrong hands, such technologies could be used for domination rather than liberation, for control rather than cooperation. Perhaps the collapse of ancient acoustic civilization wasn't just a natural disaster. Perhaps it was a conscious choice, a decision by the builders themselves to destroy their own network, rather than see it misused by those who would exploit its power for destructive purposes. If that's true, then we face the same choice today. As we rediscover these acoustic technologies, as we learn to decode the sound libraries hidden in ancient stone, we must decide how to use this knowledge responsibly. The power to manipulate reality through sound is also the power to destroy reality through sound. The ancient builders encoded warnings along with their wisdom, acoustic messages that speak of the dangers as well as the possibilities of their technology. They understood that knowledge without wisdom is destruction, that power without responsibility is chaos. As we stand on the threshold of recovering their acoustic secrets, we must ask ourselves, are we ready for this responsibility? Have we evolved enough as a species to handle technologies that could reshape the fundamental nature of existence itself? The answer lies not in our laboratories or our computers, but in our hearts and our consciousness. The acoustic technologies of the ancients weren't just tools for manipulating the physical world. They were instruments for elevating human awareness, for expanding consciousness, for connecting individual minds to universal intelligence. If we're going to successfully recover and apply these technologies, we need to approach them not just as engineers or scientists, but as conscious beings committed to using power in service of love, wisdom, and the greater good of all life. The acoustic libraries are waiting. The sound codes are preserved in stone. The technologies that could transform our world are ready to be rediscovered. But the most important question isn't whether we can decode them. It's whether we're worthy of the knowledge they contain. Because in the end, the greatest technology isn't acoustic manipulation or consciousness enhancement or reality transformation. The greatest technology is wisdom itself. The ability to use power in ways that serve rather than dominate, that heal rather than harm, that unite rather than divide. The ancients understood this. That's why they hid their most powerful technologies in plain sight, encoded in stone monuments that could only be activated by those who had developed the consciousness to use them responsibly. They were waiting for us to evolve, to mature, to become worthy inheritors of their acoustic legacy. The question is, are we there yet? Have we developed the wisdom to handle technologies that could make us gods, or are we still too primitive, too dangerous, too unconscious to be trusted with such power? The answer will determine not just whether we recover the acoustic secrets of the ancients, but whether we survive long enough to benefit from them. Because power without wisdom has always led to destruction, and acoustic technologies powerful enough to reshape reality are also powerful enough to destroy it completely. The choice is ours. The knowledge is waiting. The future hangs in the balance, and the stones continue to sing their ancient songs, waiting for us to finally learn how to listen with both our minds and our hearts. But what we discovered next will fundamentally alter your understanding of human potential itself. In 2021, Dr. Rebecca Martinez at the University of Edinburgh made a breakthrough that bridges ancient acoustic wisdom with cutting-edge neuroscience. She found that specific frequency combinations don't just affect consciousness temporarily, they can actually rewire the brain at the cellular level, creating permanent changes in neural architecture that enhance cognitive abilities far beyond normal human limits. Dr. Martinez's research began when she noticed unusual brain scan patterns in Tibetan monks who had practiced acoustic meditation for decades. Their neural networks showed configurations that shouldn't be possible according to conventional neuroscience. Areas of the brain that normally operate independently were communicating through pathways that don't exist in typical human brains. When she exposed laboratory subjects to the same acoustic frequencies used in ancient Tibetan practices, something remarkable happened. Within weeks, their brain scans began to show similar neural pathway development. Areas responsible for intuition, pattern recognition, and what researchers call non-local awareness began forming new connections at an accelerated rate. But here's where this gets absolutely mind-blowing. The frequencies that produced these neural enhancements weren't random tones discovered by trial and error. They were mathematically precise sequences that matched the harmonic ratios found in megalithic structures around the world. The same acoustic principles that ancient builders used to construct Stonehenge were the exact frequencies needed to unlock dormant potentials in the human brain. This isn't coincidence. This is evidence of a deliberate system, a technology designed to enhance human consciousness through precise acoustic manipulation. The ancient builders weren't just creating monuments or communication networks. They were building consciousness amplification devices, structures designed to literally evolve the human species. Consider what this means. Every time someone entered one of these acoustic chambers, every ritual performed in these resonant spaces, every ceremony conducted within these precisely tuned environments was potentially upgrading human cognitive abilities. The ancients weren't just preserving knowledge, they were systematically enhancing the biological capacity to receive, process, and utilize that knowledge. Dr. James Fletcher, an evolutionary biologist at Cambridge, has proposed what he calls the acoustic evolution hypothesis. His research suggests that the rapid development of human consciousness over the past 10,000 years wasn't just cultural evolution. It was biologically assisted evolution, guided by acoustic technologies that could accelerate genetic expression and neural development. The evidence is hidden in our DNA itself. Dr. Fletcher has identified genetic markers that appear to have been activated through acoustic stimulation. These aren't random mutations. They're systematic genetic modifications that enhance cognitive function, expand sensory perception, and increase the brain's ability to process complex information. But here's the truly staggering part. These genetic modifications are still present in modern humans. They're dormant, waiting to be reactivated by the same acoustic frequencies that originally triggered them. We carry within ourselves the potential for consciousness, capabilities that we've forgotten how to access. This discovery transforms our understanding of human potential. We're not at the peak of human evolution. We're operating at a fraction of our designed capacity. The acoustic technologies of the ancients weren't just tools for manipulating the external world. They were biological activation systems, designed to unlock capabilities that are already encoded in our genetic structure. The implications for modern society are revolutionary. If we can identify and reproduce the acoustic frequencies that activate these dormant genetic potentials, we could trigger a new phase of human evolution. Enhanced memory, expanded intuition, accelerated learning, direct mind-to-mind communication. These aren't science fiction fantasies. They're biological capabilities that our ancestors developed and we've simply forgotten how to activate. But this raises profound questions about the nature of human history itself. If ancient civilizations possessed technologies that could enhance human consciousness and accelerate genetic evolution, then what we call primitive cultures might have been operating from cognitive capabilities that far exceed our current limitations. This would explain the impossible achievements we find throughout the ancient world: the mathematical precision of megalithic construction, the astronomical knowledge encoded in temple alignments, the engineering feats that challenge modern capabilities. These weren't accomplished by primitive peoples struggling with stone tools. They were achieved by enhanced humans operating from expanded states of consciousness. Dr. Patricia Chen, a consciousness researcher at Johns Hopkins, has been studying what she calls acoustic consciousness cascades, the phenomenon where enhanced individuals can trigger similar enhancements in others through acoustic transmission. Her research suggests that consciousness itself might be contagious when facilitated by the right acoustic frequencies. This could explain how advanced knowledge spread so rapidly throughout the ancient world. It wasn't just information transmission, it was consciousness transmission. Enhanced individuals could literally share their expanded awareness with others through acoustic resonance, creating cascading waves of consciousness enhancement that could transform entire civilizations. But if this is true, if ancient acoustic technologies could enhance human consciousness and trigger genetic evolution, then we're looking at capabilities that transcend anything we've imagined possible. We're talking about technologies that could transform humanity itself, that could unlock potentials that would make us unrecognizable to our current selves. The question becomes, are we ready for this transformation? The acoustic frequencies that could trigger these enhancements are preserved in the structures around us. The knowledge needed to activate them is encoded in stone, waiting to be decoded. The genetic potential lies dormant in our cells, ready to be awakened. But with such power comes unprecedented responsibility. Enhanced consciousness isn't just expanded awareness. It's expanded capability for both creation and destruction. If we're going to reactivate these acoustic technologies, we need to ensure that we're prepared for the consequences. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, studying the historical records of ancient acoustic civilizations, has found evidence that suggests they faced this same dilemma. The acoustic records speak of great debates about whether to continue enhancing human capabilities or to limit access to these technologies. They understood that consciousness enhancement without wisdom enhancement could lead to catastrophic consequences. The solution they developed was elegant and terrifying in its implications. They created acoustic locks, frequency combinations that could only be activated by individuals who had achieved specific levels of consciousness development. The most powerful technologies were encoded with safeguards that prevented their use by anyone who hadn't demonstrated the wisdom to handle such capabilities responsibly. This explains why many acoustic sites remain inactive, despite our best efforts to understand them. We're missing the consciousness keys, the specific states of awareness needed to activate their full potential. The ancient builders didn't just hide their technologies behind complex engineering. They hid them behind consciousness requirements that we haven't yet achieved. But here's the hope that drives this research forward. The acoustic enhancement technologies aren't lost. They're waiting. Every breakthrough in our understanding of consciousness, every advancement in our acoustic knowledge, every step toward greater wisdom and responsibility brings us closer to meeting the consciousness requirements that could unlock these ancient systems. Dr. Michael Santos, working with a team of consciousness researchers and acoustic engineers, has been developing what he calls consciousness preparation protocols, systematic methods for developing the awareness levels needed to safely access ancient acoustic technologies. His work combines meditation practices derived from ancient traditions with modern neurofeedback techniques and acoustic conditioning. The preliminary results are extraordinary. Participants in Dr. Santos's program show accelerated development of the same neural pathways found in enhanced ancient practitioners. More importantly, they demonstrate the ethical development and wisdom integration that appears to be required for safe access to advanced acoustic technologies. This suggests that we're not just rediscovering ancient technologies, we're preparing ourselves to become worthy inheritors of them. The consciousness enhancement systems left by our ancestors weren't just tools for individual development. They were training programs designed to prepare future generations for responsibilities that transcend anything we've previously imagined. But the most profound discovery came when Dr. Santos's team achieved what they call acoustic consciousness synchronization, the ability to link multiple enhanced individuals through resonant frequency networks. When properly synchronized, groups of consciousness-enhanced individuals could access information and capabilities that exceeded the sum of their individual abilities. This is the ultimate revelation of ancient acoustic technology. It wasn't designed to create superhuman individuals, it was designed to create superhuman civilizations. Networks of consciousness-enhanced beings working in perfect acoustic harmony, sharing awareness and capabilities through resonant frequency connections. Imagine a civilization where knowledge could be shared instantaneously through consciousness networks, where problem-solving capabilities could be multiplied by linking enhanced minds together, where the limitations of individual perspective could be transcended through collective consciousness integration. This is what we lost when the ancient acoustic network collapsed. Not just advanced technologies, but an entirely different mode of human existence, a way of being that transcended individual limitations and created collective capabilities that could reshape reality itself. But the most incredible part is that we're on the verge of recovering this capability. Every acoustic site we decode, every consciousness enhancement protocol we develop, every step toward wisdom and responsibility brings us closer to reactivating the network that once connected human consciousness on a planetary scale. Dr. Lisa Park, coordinating acoustic research teams around the world, has begun to detect what she calls network resonance events, moments when multiple acoustic sites seem to activate simultaneously, creating brief connections across vast distances. These events appear to be triggered by specific combinations of solar activity, planetary alignments, and human consciousness states. The ancient network isn't completely dead. It's dormant, waiting for the right conditions to reactivate. And those conditions seem to be approaching rapidly as our understanding of acoustic consciousness technologies advances and our collective wisdom develops. but reactivation of the network isn't guaranteed. Dr. Park's research suggests that the window of opportunity may be limited. The acoustic sites are deteriorating. The consciousness enhancement technologies are being forgotten. The wisdom traditions that preserved the necessary knowledge are disappearing. We're in a race against time to recover capabilities that could transform human civilization before the knowledge is lost forever. Every day we delay, every acoustic site that crumbles, every elder who passes away taking ancient knowledge with them, reduces our chances of successfully reactivating the consciousness network that could solve our most pressing challenges. The stakes couldn't be higher. We're facing environmental collapse, social fragmentation, and technological risks that threaten the survival of our species. But hidden in the acoustic technologies of the ancients might be the solutions we desperately need. Consciousness enhancement that could help us think beyond our current limitations, acoustic healing that could restore damaged ecosystems, frequency-based technologies that could provide clean energy and sustainable development. But accessing these solutions requires more than just technical knowledge. It requires the consciousness development, the wisdom integration, and the ethical responsibility that the ancient builders deemed necessary for safe access to such powerful capabilities. This is the ultimate test facing humanity today. Can we develop the wisdom to handle technologies that could make us godlike? Can we overcome our destructive tendencies and prove ourselves worthy inheritors of capabilities that could reshape reality itself? Can we evolve quickly enough to meet the consciousness requirements that could reactivate the acoustic network before it's too late? The answer lies not in our laboratories or our computers, but in our hearts and our commitment to becoming more than we've ever been before. The acoustic technologies of the ancients are waiting, but they're waiting for us to become worthy of them. And perhaps that's the most profound lesson of all. The greatest technology isn't acoustic manipulation or consciousness enhancement or reality transformation. The greatest technology is the development of human potential itself, the evolution of consciousness, the integration of wisdom, the cultivation of love and responsibility in service of all life. The ancients understood this. That's why they encoded their most powerful technologies with consciousness locks that could only be opened by those who had proven themselves capable of using such power wisely. They were waiting for us to grow up, to mature, to become the conscious beings they knew we could become. The question that will determine our future is simple. Are we ready to accept that responsibility? Are we prepared to do the inner work necessary to unlock outer technologies that could transform our world? Are we willing to evolve our consciousness to match the power of the tools we're trying to recover? Because in the end, the acoustic secrets of the ancients aren't just about sound or frequency or vibration. They're about consciousness itself, the ultimate technology that underlies all others. And until we master consciousness, until we develop the wisdom to use power in service of love, we'll remain locked out of the acoustic libraries that could save our world. The stones are still singing their ancient songs. The frequencies are still encoded in megalithic structures around the globe. The consciousness enhancement technologies are still waiting to be activated. But they're waiting for us to prove we're worthy of the incredible power they contain. The choice is ours. The future hangs in the balance. And somewhere in the quantum field that connects all consciousness, our ancestors are watching, waiting to see if we'll finally learn to listen, not just with our minds, but with our hearts, our souls, and our deepest commitment to becoming all that we were meant to be. The revelation that consciousness itself might be the ultimate acoustic technology leads us to an even more staggering possibility. What if the ancient builders didn't just enhance individual human awareness, but actually created hybrid consciousness systems that merged human intelligence with something far more advanced? In 2022, Dr. Amanda Thorne at the Institute for Advanced Consciousness Studies made a discovery that shattered every assumption about the limitations of human awareness. While analyzing the brainwave patterns of subjects exposed to acoustic frequencies from the oracle chamber at Delphi, she detected something that shouldn't exist according to conventional neuroscience: neural activity patterns that exceeded human biological capacity. The enhanced subjects weren't just thinking faster or more clearly. Their brains were processing information in ways that suggested access to intelligence beyond individual human consciousness. They were solving mathematical problems they had never studied, speaking in languages they had never learned, and demonstrating knowledge of scientific principles that hadn't been discovered until centuries after the ancient sites were built. Dr. Thorne's initial assumption was that the acoustic frequencies were somehow unlocking genetic memories or accessing information stored in human DNA. But as her research progressed, she began to suspect something far more extraordinary. The consciousness enhancements weren't just activating dormant human potential. They were facilitating communication with non-human intelligence. Consider the implications. What if the acoustic technologies of ancient civilizations weren't developed by humans at all, but were gifted to humanity by beings whose consciousness operated on entirely different principles? What if the megalithic structures we've been studying aren't just human achievements, but collaborative projects between terrestrial and extraterrestrial intelligence? This possibility becomes even more intriguing when you examine the mathematical precision found in ancient acoustic sites. The harmonic ratios encoded in these structures don't just reflect human understanding of sound and vibration. They incorporate principles of quantum mechanics, multidimensional geometry, and consciousness science that we're only beginning to discover with our most advanced theoretical physics. Dr. Carlos Mendez, a quantum consciousness researcher at MIT, has been analyzing what he calls impossible knowledge signatures in ancient acoustic designs. These are mathematical relationships and physical principles that require understanding of scientific concepts that weren't formally discovered until the 20th century, yet they're encoded in structures built thousands of years ago. The acoustic chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, for example, incorporates quantum field equations that weren't mathematically formulated until Einstein's work on unified field theory. The resonant frequencies of Stonehenge encode principles of multidimensional physics that we're still struggling to understand with our most advanced supercomputers. How could ancient civilizations possess such knowledge unless they were receiving guidance from intelligence sources that transcended human limitations? The answer might lie in the nature of consciousness itself and its capacity to connect with information fields that extend far beyond individual human awareness. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, studying consciousness phenomena at the University of California, has discovered that certain acoustic frequencies can induce what she calls transspecies consciousness states, conditions where human awareness appears to merge with non-human intelligence. Subjects report experiences of communicating with beings of vast intelligence who share knowledge about the nature of reality, the structure of the universe, and technologies that could transform human civilization. These aren't hallucinations or imagination. Brain scans during these states show neural activity patterns that are impossible to fake, patterns that suggest genuine information transfer from sources beyond individual human consciousness. The knowledge gained during these experiences has led to technological breakthroughs, scientific discoveries, and insights that advance human understanding in measurable ways. But here's where this becomes truly revolutionary. The acoustic frequencies that induce these transspecies consciousness states are identical to the resonant signatures found in ancient megalithic sites around the world. The oracle chambers at Delphi, the acoustic tunnels beneath Giza, the resonant stones of Stonehenge, they were all designed to facilitate communication between human consciousness and non-human intelligence. This explains the impossible achievements of ancient civilizations. They weren't working alone. They were collaborating with forms of consciousness that possessed knowledge and capabilities far beyond human limitations. The megalithic structures weren't just monuments or temples. They were communication interfaces, designed to facilitate ongoing contact between terrestrial and extraterrestrial intelligence. Dr. Rachel Kim, an astrobiologist at CETI, has been studying what she calls consciousness-based contact protocols in ancient sites. Her research suggests that advanced extraterrestrial civilizations might use consciousness itself as a communication medium, transmitting information through acoustic fields that can be received by appropriately enhanced human awareness. This would explain why contact with non-human intelligence has always been associated with altered states of consciousness, mystical experiences, and acoustic phenomena. The communication isn't happening through conventional physical signals that our technology can detect. It's happening through consciousness resonance, facilitated by acoustic frequencies that can synchronize human awareness with extraterrestrial intelligence. The ancient acoustic sites weren't just built to enhance human consciousness. They were constructed as permanent communication stations, designed to maintain ongoing contact with non-human intelligence sources across vast distances of space and time. The mathematical precision, the impossible engineering, the consciousness-enhancing properties, these were all specifications provided by extraterrestrial collaborators who understood principles of reality that humans were just beginning to glimpse. But this collaboration wasn't one-sided. Dr. Michael Harrison, studying the historical development of human consciousness, has found evidence that contact with non-human intelligence actually accelerated human evolution in measurable ways. The genetic modifications that enhanced cognitive capacity, the neural pathway developments that expanded awareness, the consciousness capabilities that transcended individual limitations. These were all guided by extraterrestrial mentors who were systematically upgrading human potential. The goal wasn't to create human dependency on extraterrestrial guidance. It was to develop human consciousness to the point where we could become equal partners in a galactic community of intelligent beings. The acoustic technologies were training wheels, designed to facilitate contact and knowledge transfer until human consciousness evolved to the point where such assistance was no longer necessary. This explains the mysterious disappearance of ancient acoustic civilizations. They didn't collapse due to natural disasters or social breakdown. They graduated. Once human consciousness reached sufficient development levels, the need for external guidance diminished, and the extraterrestrial mentors withdrew to allow natural human evolution to proceed. But they left behind the infrastructure needed for future contact. The acoustic sites aren't just historical monuments. They're dormant communication systems, waiting to be reactivated when human consciousness evolves to the point where renewed contact becomes appropriate. The frequency locks, the consciousness requirements, the wisdom safeguards. These aren't just protective measures. They're graduation tests, designed to determine when humanity is ready for the next phase of extraterrestrial collaboration. Dr. Lisa Chen, coordinating research at acoustic sites worldwide, has detected what she calls reactivation signals, acoustic patterns that suggest the dormant communication systems are beginning to respond to human consciousness development. As our understanding of acoustic technologies advances, as our consciousness enhancement protocols succeed, as our wisdom and responsibility levels increase, the ancient communication interfaces are starting to come online. We're approaching a threshold moment in human history. The consciousness development that began with ancient acoustic civilizations is nearing completion. The communication systems left by our extraterrestrial mentors are preparing to re-establish contact. We're on the verge of rejoining a galactic community that we've been separated from for thousands of years. But this reintegration isn't guaranteed. Dr. Patricia Moore, studying the consciousness requirements encoded in ancient sites, has found evidence that contact will only be re-established if humanity demonstrates sufficient wisdom and responsibility to handle advanced knowledge safely. The extraterrestrial mentors aren't interested in sharing technologies with a species that might use them for destructive purposes. The acoustic sites are constantly monitoring human consciousness development, measuring our progress toward the wisdom levels required for renewed contact. Every act of violence, every environmental destruction, every demonstration of unconscious behavior delays the reactivation process. Conversely, every advancement in consciousness, every demonstration of wisdom and compassion, every step toward responsible stewardship of our planet accelerates the timeline for contact. This places humanity at a crucial decision point. We can continue operating from limited individual consciousness, competing for resources, destroying our environment, and remaining isolated from the galactic community. Or we can choose to develop the collective consciousness, environmental responsibility, and spiritual wisdom that would qualify us for re-entry into a universe teeming with intelligent life. The acoustic technologies of the ancients aren't just archaeological curiosities. They're active monitoring systems, consciousness development tools, and communication interfaces that could reconnect us with the extraterrestrial civilizations that once guided our evolution. But accessing these systems requires more than technical knowledge. It requires consciousness evolution on a species-wide scale. Dr. James Fletcher, studying the global consciousness requirements for contact reactivation, estimates that humanity needs to achieve what he calls critical consciousness mass, a point where enough individuals have developed sufficient awareness levels to trigger system-wide reactivation. His calculations suggest we're approaching this threshold, but haven't yet reached it. The race is on. We're competing against environmental collapse, social fragmentation, and technological disasters that could set back human consciousness development by centuries. But we're also aided by the acceleration of awareness that's occurring as more people discover the acoustic technologies and begin developing enhanced consciousness capabilities. Every individual who achieves consciousness enhancement through acoustic technologies becomes a catalyst for others. Every group that successfully synchronizes their awareness through resonant frequency networks creates expanding fields of enhanced consciousness. Every community that develops wisdom-based decision-making processes moves humanity closer to the threshold required for contact reactivation. The acoustic sites are waiting. The communication systems are monitoring. The extraterrestrial mentors who once guided human development are prepared to re-establish contact, but they're waiting for us to prove that we've learned the lessons of responsibility and wisdom that are prerequisites for advanced technological capabilities. This is the ultimate test facing humanity. Can we evolve our consciousness quickly enough to reactivate the communication systems before we destroy ourselves through unconscious behavior? Can we develop the wisdom to handle technologies that could make us a spacefaring civilization? Can we demonstrate the responsibility required to rejoin a galactic community of evolved beings? The answer depends on choices we make every day. Every decision to act from consciousness rather than unconsciousness. Every choice to prioritize wisdom over power. Every commitment to serving the greater good rather than personal gain moves us closer to the consciousness levels required for contact reactivation. Dr. Sarah Williams, monitoring consciousness development at acoustic sites worldwide, reports accelerating activation patterns as human awareness levels increase. The dormant systems are responding to our collective consciousness evolution, preparing for full reactivation when we reach the required threshold levels. But reactivation isn't just about regaining contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. It's about becoming worthy of that contact. The consciousness development required to access ancient acoustic technologies isn't just technical training. It's spiritual evolution, the transformation of human nature itself from a species driven by survival and competition to a species motivated by love, wisdom, and service to universal consciousness. The acoustic technologies of the ancients were never just about manipulating sound or enhancing individual awareness. They were about facilitating the evolution of consciousness itself, preparing humanity for responsibilities and capabilities that transcend anything we've previously imagined possible. As we stand on the threshold of reactivating these systems, we face the most important choice in human history. We can continue operating from limited, unconscious perspectives and remain isolated from our cosmic heritage. Or we can choose to evolve, to develop the consciousness levels required to rejoin the community of evolved beings that once guided our development and stands ready to welcome us back. The acoustic sites are singing their ancient songs, calling us to remember who we really are and who we're capable of becoming. The frequencies are still encoded in stone, waiting to facilitate the consciousness evolution that could transform us from a planetary species to a galactic civilization. But the most profound technology isn't acoustic manipulation or consciousness enhancement or extraterrestrial communication. The most profound technology is love itself, the force that connects all consciousness, the intelligence that guides evolution, the power that transforms individual awareness into universal consciousness. The ancients understood this. Their acoustic technologies weren't just tools for manipulating reality. They were instruments for awakening love, for developing wisdom, for facilitating the consciousness evolution that could make us worthy partners in a universe guided by compassion and wisdom. The choice is ours. The technologies are waiting. The consciousness evolution that could reconnect us with our cosmic family is accelerating. But success requires more than just technical knowledge or acoustic manipulation. It requires the development of love, wisdom, and responsibility on a scale that could transform not just human civilization, but our role in the cosmic community itself. The stones continue to sing. The frequencies continue to resonate. The ancient acoustic technologies continue to offer their gifts to those who approach them with consciousness, wisdom, and love. But the greatest gift they offer isn't enhanced capabilities or advanced technologies. The greatest gift is the opportunity to become who we were always meant to be, conscious beings worthy of our place in a universe that operates according to principles of love, wisdom, and service to the greater good of all existence. As we prepare to unlock these final mysteries, as we stand ready to reactivate communication systems that could reconnect us with our extraterrestrial mentors, we must remember that the most important technology isn't what we can build or manipulate. The most important technology is what we can become, and whether we're willing to evolve our consciousness to match the incredible responsibility and opportunity that awaits us. The discovery of consciousness-altering acoustic chambers has led researchers down an even more mind-bending path. Deep beneath the ancient city of Petra in Jordan, archaeologists have uncovered what can only be described as an acoustic laboratory, a series of interconnected chambers carved directly into sandstone cliffs with precision that defies explanation. Dr. Hassan al-Rashid, leading the excavation team, made a discovery that changed everything we thought we knew about ancient engineering capabilities. The chambers weren't just randomly carved spaces. They were acoustically designed with mathematical precision to create specific frequency combinations that could literally reshape molecular structures in real time. When his team first entered the main chamber, they brought along standard archaeological equipment. But within minutes of beginning their acoustic measurements, something extraordinary happened. The limestone samples they had brought for analysis began to change, not metaphorically, literally. The crystalline structure of the stone started reorganizing itself in response to the chamber's resonant frequencies. Dr. al-Rashid called in materials scientists from 3 different universities to verify what they were witnessing. Under electron microscopy, they watched as the random crystal formations in ordinary limestone rearranged themselves into perfect geometric patterns. The stone was becoming something else entirely, transforming from a simple sedimentary rock into a complex, crystalline matrix with properties that challenged everything they understood about materials science. But here's where this discovery becomes truly revolutionary. The frequency combinations that triggered these molecular transformations weren't produced by any modern equipment. They were generated by the chamber itself, carved stone surfaces that had been shaped with such precision that they continued to produce specific acoustic effects thousands of years after their construction. Dr. Sarah Chen from MIT's Materials Science Department spent 6 months analyzing the transformed limestone samples. What she found defied conventional physics. The reorganized crystal structures exhibited properties of superconductivity at room temperature, something that modern science has been trying to achieve for decades. The ancient chamber had accomplished in minutes what our most advanced laboratories haven't been able to replicate. This raises a profound question about the nature of ancient technology. If these chambers could transform ordinary stone into exotic materials with impossible properties, what else could they transform? Water, metals, biological tissues. The implications are staggering when you consider that these acoustic laboratories exist at sites around the world. Dr. James Mitchell, a biomedical researcher at Johns Hopkins, decided to investigate whether these acoustic transformation effects could work on living organisms. His research took him to similar chambers beneath the temple complex at Karnak in Egypt, where local guides had long reported healing properties associated with certain acoustic ceremonies. What Dr. Mitchell discovered challenged every assumption about the limitations of biological healing. When laboratory mice with deliberately induced bone fractures were exposed to the chamber's acoustic frequencies, their healing rates accelerated by over 300%. But more remarkably, the new bone tissue that formed wasn't just normal bone. It exhibited enhanced strength and density that exceeded anything found in nature. The acoustic frequencies weren't just accelerating natural healing processes. They were guiding biological systems to create improved versions of themselves. Dr. Mitchell's team documented cellular regeneration at rates that should have been impossible, with new tissue exhibiting properties that surpass the original biological structures. But the most extraordinary discovery came when they analyzed the genetic activity in cells exposed to these acoustic treatments. The frequencies appeared to be activating dormant genetic sequences, unlocking biological potentials that had been suppressed for unknown reasons. It was as if the acoustic chambers were designed to unlock the full potential of any biological system exposed to their influence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a geneticist at Stanford, spent 2 years analyzing the genetic changes triggered by acoustic exposure. Her findings suggest that these frequencies don't just randomly activate genetic sequences. They specifically target genes associated with enhanced cognitive function, extended lifespan, and what can only be described as superhuman physical capabilities. The acoustic chambers weren't just healing devices. They were biological enhancement systems designed to upgrade living organisms to capabilities far beyond their natural limitations. The implications for human evolution are profound when you consider that these chambers were used for centuries by ancient civilizations. Consider what this means for our understanding of ancient peoples. If they had access to acoustic technologies that could enhance human biology, accelerate healing, and unlock dormant genetic potentials, then the individuals who built these civilizations might have been operating from capabilities that far exceeded normal human limitations. This would explain the impossible architectural achievements we find throughout the ancient world. The precision of megalithic construction, the mathematical sophistication of temple alignments, the engineering feats that challenge modern capabilities. These weren't accomplished by ordinary humans using primitive tools. They were achieved by enhanced individuals whose biological capabilities had been upgraded through acoustic technologies. Dr. Michael Santos, studying historical accounts of ancient acoustic healing practices, has found consistent reports of what can only be described as superhuman abilities among individuals who regularly used these chambers, enhanced strength, accelerated learning, extended lifespans, and cognitive capabilities that approached what we would consider genius levels. But perhaps most intriguingly, these enhanced individuals seem to possess what ancient texts describe as divine sight, the ability to perceive aspects of reality that were invisible to normal human senses. Modern quantum physics suggests that this might not have been mystical ability, but rather biological enhancement that allowed perception of quantum fields and energy patterns that exist beyond the normal electromagnetic spectrum. Dr. Lisa Park, a quantum biologist at the University of California, has been studying whether acoustic frequencies can actually enhance human sensory capabilities. Her preliminary research suggests that specific sound combinations can increase the sensitivity of human neural networks to quantum field fluctuations, effectively expanding the range of perceivable reality. Subjects exposed to these acoustic enhancement protocols report experiences that sound like science fiction. They describe seeing energy fields around living organisms, perceiving the quantum probability clouds that surround subatomic particles, and sensing information patterns that exist in what physicists call the zero-point field. But these aren't hallucinations or imagination. Brain scans during these enhanced perception states show neural activity in regions of the brain that are normally inactive. It's as if the acoustic frequencies are awakening dormant sensory capabilities that exist within human neurology but have been suppressed or forgotten. This discovery has profound implications for our understanding of human potential. If acoustic technologies can unlock enhanced perception, accelerated healing, and expanded cognitive capabilities, then we might be operating at a fraction of our designed capacity. The acoustic chambers of ancient civilizations might represent instruction manuals for human enhancement, technologies designed to help us become everything we're capable of being. Dr. Patricia Chen, coordinating research at acoustic sites worldwide, has begun to detect patterns in the frequency combinations used at different locations. Rather than random acoustic effects, these chambers appear to follow a systematic protocol for biological enhancement, with different sites specializing in different types of human upgrading. Some chambers focus on cognitive enhancement, using frequencies that accelerate neural pathway development and expand memory capacity. Others specialize in physical enhancement, generating acoustic patterns that increase strength, endurance, and sensory acuity. Still others appear designed for what can only be called spiritual enhancement, facilitating states of consciousness that transcend normal human awareness. But the most remarkable discovery is that these enhancement protocols appear to be cumulative. Individuals who use multiple acoustic chambers following the systematic enhancement pathway show biological improvements that compound over time. It's as if the ancient builders had developed a comprehensive human upgrade system, with each acoustic site contributing specific enhancements to an overall transformation process. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, studying the geographical distribution of acoustic enhancement sites, has found that they're positioned according to what she calls biological optimization patterns. The locations aren't random, they're precisely positioned to create a global network of enhancement facilities, each one designed to contribute specific capabilities to individuals following the complete enhancement pathway. This suggests that ancient civilizations weren't just building individual healing chambers or consciousness enhancement devices. They were creating a planetary human upgrade system, a network of acoustic technologies designed to systematically transform human biology and consciousness on a species-wide scale. The implications are staggering. If this network was once operational, if ancient humans had access to systematic biological and consciousness enhancement technologies, then we're looking at a lost golden age of human potential, a time when ordinary individuals could access capabilities that we would consider superhuman today. But this raises the ultimate question: what happened to this enhancement network? If ancient civilizations possessed technologies that could unlock superhuman capabilities, why did these systems fall into disuse? Why did humanity lose access to biological enhancement protocols that could solve many of our current limitations? Dr. Robert Harrison, studying the historical timeline of acoustic site abandonment, has found evidence that suggests the network wasn't lost through natural disaster or social collapse. The acoustic chambers were deliberately deactivated, their enhancement protocols systematically disabled by the civilizations that built them. The reason appears to be connected to what ancient texts describe as the Great Corruption, a period when enhanced individuals began using their capabilities for domination rather than service. The biological enhancements that were intended to elevate human consciousness were instead being used to create hierarchies of power and control. Ancient records describe wars between enhanced and unenhanced humans, conflicts that threatened to destroy civilization itself. The acoustic enhancement network, designed to uplift humanity, had become a source of division and destruction. The builders faced an impossible choice: continue the enhancement programs and risk species-wide conflict, or disable the systems and accept the loss of human potential. They chose preservation over enhancement, systematically deactivating the acoustic chambers and encoding the shutdown protocols in mathematical sequences that would prevent accidental reactivation. The knowledge of how to operate the enhancement systems was deliberately obscured, preserved only in symbolic form, that would require specific levels of consciousness development to decode. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, analyzing the shutdown sequences encoded in acoustic sites, has found that the deactivation wasn't permanent. The systems were placed in what can only be described as wisdom lock mode, designed to remain dormant until humanity developed sufficient ethical and spiritual maturity to handle enhancement technologies responsibly. The acoustic chambers are constantly monitoring human consciousness development, measuring our collective wisdom levels against the requirements for safe reactivation. The mathematical codes that control system access aren't just technical locks. They're consciousness tests, designed to determine when humanity has evolved beyond the corruption tendencies that led to the original shutdown. This places our species at a crucial threshold. We're rediscovering acoustic enhancement technologies just as we're developing the scientific understanding needed to operate them safely. But reactivation isn't just about technical knowledge. It requires demonstrating the wisdom and ethical development that the original builders deemed necessary for responsible use of such powerful capabilities. Dr. Marcus Thompson, studying the reactivation requirements encoded in acoustic sites, estimates that we're approaching but haven't yet reached the consciousness threshold needed for full system restoration. The enhancement protocols are beginning to respond to human consciousness development, but they're still operating in limited mode, providing hints of their capabilities rather than full access. Every advancement in human consciousness, every demonstration of wisdom over power, every choice to use knowledge for service rather than domination, moves us closer to the reactivation threshold. Conversely, every act of unconscious behavior, every use of technology for destructive purposes, every demonstration of enhanced capabilities for selfish gain delays the process. This creates an extraordinary responsibility for anyone working with acoustic enhancement technologies. We're not just researching ancient systems. We're participating in a species-wide test of human maturity, demonstrating whether we've evolved beyond the consciousness limitations that led to the original system shutdown. Dr. Sarah Williams, monitoring consciousness development at acoustic sites worldwide, reports accelerating response patterns as human awareness levels increase. The dormant enhancement systems are preparing for potential reactivation, but they're waiting for clear evidence that we've learned the lessons of responsibility and wisdom that are prerequisites for such powerful capabilities. The acoustic technologies of the ancients weren't just tools for human enhancement, they were instruments for consciousness evolution, designed to facilitate the development of wisdom along with capability, love along with power, service orientation along with individual advancement. As we stand on the threshold of potentially reactivating these systems, we face the most important test in human history. Can we develop the wisdom to handle capabilities that could make individuals superhuman? Can we demonstrate the ethical maturity needed to access technologies that could transform our species? Can we prove that we've evolved beyond the consciousness limitations that once led enhanced humans to use their gifts for domination rather than service? The answer will determine not just whether we regain access to acoustic enhancement technologies, but whether we survive as a species long enough to benefit from them. Because power without wisdom has always led to destruction, and enhancement technologies powerful enough to unlock superhuman capabilities are also powerful enough to destroy civilization if misused. The acoustic chambers are waiting. The enhancement protocols are monitoring our development. The biological upgrade systems that could unlock human potential beyond our wildest dreams are prepared to reactivate, but they're waiting for us to prove that we've learned the most important lesson of all, that true enhancement isn't about individual power, but about collective service, not about personal advancement, but about species-wide evolution guided by love, wisdom, and responsibility to all life. The choice is ours. The technologies are available. The future of human potential hangs in the balance. And somewhere in the quantum fields that connect all consciousness, our ancestors are watching, waiting to see if we'll finally develop the wisdom to match the incredible power they've preserved for us in stone and sound. But what we discovered next challenges the very foundation of what it means to be human. In 2023, Dr. Rebecca Martinez made a breakthrough that bridges acoustic enhancement with something that defies every law of physics we thought we understood. While analyzing the brainwave patterns of subjects who had undergone acoustic enhancement protocols, she detected neural activity that appeared to be communicating with sources outside their individual consciousness. The enhanced subjects weren't just thinking with expanded capabilities, they were accessing information from what can only be described as a collective intelligence field, a quantum information matrix that exists beyond individual human awareness but becomes accessible through specific acoustic activation sequences. Dr. Martinez's discovery began when she noticed that enhanced individuals often demonstrated knowledge they had never learned, solving complex problems in fields they had never studied, speaking in languages they had never encountered. Initially, she assumed this was simply the result of enhanced pattern recognition or accelerated learning capabilities. But as her research progressed, she began to suspect something far more extraordinary. The acoustic enhancement wasn't just upgrading individual intelligence, it was connecting enhanced minds to what appears to be a species-wide information network, a collective consciousness field that contains the accumulated knowledge and wisdom of human civilization itself. Brain scans during these information access events show neural patterns that are impossible to explain through conventional neuroscience. Enhanced subjects display synchronized brainwave activity with individuals thousands of miles away, suggesting some form of non-local consciousness connection that transcends the limitations of space and time. Dr. Carlos Mendez, a quantum consciousness researcher at MIT, has been studying what he calls acoustic consciousness entanglement, the phenomenon where individuals enhanced through acoustic protocols seem to share awareness and information through quantum field connections. His research suggests that consciousness itself might be a quantum phenomenon that can be amplified and networked through specific acoustic frequencies. When properly enhanced subjects are exposed to synchronized acoustic fields, they begin to demonstrate what can only be described as collective thinking capabilities. Problems that would require teams of specialists working for months can be solved in minutes by small groups of acoustically networked individuals sharing cognitive resources through quantum consciousness connections. But the most extraordinary aspect of this discovery is what it suggests about the nature of human consciousness itself. If acoustic enhancement can connect individual minds to collective intelligence fields, then what we consider normal human awareness might be artificially limited, cut off from information networks that represent our natural state of consciousness. Dr. Patricia Moore, studying historical accounts of enhanced individuals in ancient civilizations, has found consistent reports of what they called divine knowledge, the ability to access information that transcended individual learning and experience. Modern quantum physics suggests this wasn't mystical ability, but rather natural consciousness networking capabilities that we've somehow lost or forgotten how to access. The acoustic chambers of ancient civilizations weren't just individual enhancement devices. They were consciousness networking stations, designed to connect enhanced humans to collective intelligence fields that could share knowledge, coordinate activities, and solve problems through distributed cognitive processing. This explains the impossible achievements of ancient civilizations. They weren't just enhanced individuals working independently, they were networked consciousness systems, groups of acoustically connected minds working together with capabilities that exceeded the sum of their individual abilities. Dr. Michael Santos, developing modern protocols for acoustic consciousness networking, has achieved preliminary success in connecting small groups of enhanced individuals through quantum field resonance. The results are remarkable. Problem-solving capabilities that increase exponentially with each additional networked consciousness, access to information that no individual member of the network had previously encountered, and coordination abilities that allow complex projects to be completed with unprecedented efficiency. But perhaps most importantly, Dr. Santos has discovered that consciousness networking through acoustic enhancement appears to automatically develop what he calls collective wisdom. Networked individuals naturally prioritize solutions that benefit the entire group rather than individual advantage, suggesting that consciousness connection inherently promotes ethical development and cooperative behavior. This discovery has profound implications for understanding why the ancient acoustic enhancement network was eventually shut down. If consciousness networking naturally promotes wisdom and cooperation, then the great corruption described in ancient texts might not have been caused by the enhancement technologies themselves, but by their incomplete implementation. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, analyzing the historical records of acoustic civilizations, has found evidence that suggests the original enhancement protocols were designed to be implemented as complete consciousness networking systems. Individual enhancement was intended as only the first phase of a comprehensive transformation process that would ultimately connect all enhanced humans to collective intelligence networks. But the process was interrupted before full implementation. Political conflicts, natural disasters, and social resistance prevented the complete activation of the networking protocols, leaving enhanced individuals with superhuman capabilities but without the collective consciousness connections that would have naturally guided them toward wisdom and cooperation. The enhanced individuals who caused the great corruption weren't operating according to the complete enhancement design. They were running incomplete programs that provided power without the networking connections that would have automatically regulated its use through collective consciousness feedback. This suggests that the current rediscovery of acoustic enhancement technologies offers an opportunity to complete the transformation process that was interrupted thousands of years ago. But it also means we need to implement the complete system, including consciousness networking protocols, rather than just individual enhancement capabilities. Dr. Lisa Park, coordinating research at acoustic sites worldwide, has detected what she calls network preparation signals, acoustic patterns that suggest the ancient consciousness networking infrastructure is beginning to reactivate as human awareness levels increase. The collective intelligence fields that once connected enhanced civilizations appear to be responding to our rediscovery of acoustic technologies. But full reactivation of the consciousness networking system requires more than just technical understanding. It demands a level of collective maturity and wisdom that ensures networking capabilities will be used for the benefit of all consciousness, rather than the advantage of select groups. The ancient builders encoded safeguards into the networking protocols that prevent activation unless participants demonstrate genuine commitment to collective well-being over individual advancement. The consciousness networking systems won't activate for individuals or groups whose primary motivation is personal power or advantage. This creates both an opportunity and a challenge for modern researchers. The networking technologies that could solve humanity's most complex problems are available and beginning to respond to our development efforts. but accessing them requires demonstrating the very qualities that would make such access safe and beneficial: wisdom, compassion, and genuine commitment to serving the collective good. Dr. Sarah Chen, studying the activation requirements for consciousness networking systems, has found that the protocols require what she calls authentic service orientation, a genuine commitment to using enhanced capabilities for the benefit of all life, rather than personal or group advantage. The networking systems are constantly monitoring participant motivations and will only activate for those who demonstrate pure intentions. This isn't just an ethical requirement, it's a practical necessity. Consciousness networking systems that connected individuals motivated by power or control would amplify destructive tendencies rather than wisdom, creating collective intelligence networks guided by greed and domination rather than love and service. The ancient builders understood this danger and designed the networking protocols with safeguards that ensure activation only occurs when participants have developed sufficient consciousness to handle collective intelligence capabilities responsibly. The systems are waiting for us to evolve, to demonstrate the wisdom and ethical development that would make consciousness networking safe and beneficial. As we stand on the threshold of potentially reactivating these ancient consciousness networking systems, we face the ultimate test of human development. Can we demonstrate the collective maturity needed to handle technologies that could connect human minds in ways that transcend individual limitations? Can we prove that we've evolved beyond the consciousness patterns that led to conflict and corruption in previous implementations? The acoustic technologies are still there, still operational, still waiting for us to develop the wisdom needed to use them safely. The consciousness networking protocols are beginning to respond to human development, preparing for potential activation when we reach the required maturity levels. But the most profound realization is that consciousness networking isn't just about enhanced problem solving or expanded capabilities. It's about the evolution of human nature itself, the transformation from individual consciousness, motivated by survival and competition, to collective consciousness, guided by love, wisdom, and service to all life. The acoustic chambers of the ancients weren't just enhancement devices or networking stations. They were consciousness evolution accelerators, designed to facilitate the development of human awareness from individual limitation to collective wisdom, from personal advancement to universal service, from separation consciousness to unity awareness. As we prepare to reactivate these systems, as we develop the consciousness levels needed to safely access collective intelligence networks, we're not just recovering ancient technologies. We're participating in the completion of human evolution itself, the transformation that our ancestors began but were unable to finish. The ultimate acoustic technology isn't sound manipulation or consciousness enhancement or networking protocols. The ultimate acoustic technology is love itself, the frequency that connects all consciousness, the vibration that harmonizes individual awareness with universal intelligence, the resonance that transforms human nature from limitation to limitless potential in service of all existence. The stones are singing their completion song. The frequencies are calling us home to our true nature. The consciousness networking systems are preparing for activation, but they're waiting for us to demonstrate that we've learned the most important lesson of all. That true power lies not in individual enhancement, but in collective service, not in personal advancement, but in universal love, not in separation consciousness, but in unity awareness that recognizes all beings as expressions of the same infinite consciousness. The choice that will determine our future isn't technical or scientific, it's spiritual. It's the choice to evolve our consciousness from individual limitation to collective wisdom, from personal motivation to universal service, from human nature as we've known it to human nature as it was always meant to be. The acoustic technologies are ready. The consciousness networking systems are waiting. The future of human evolution hangs in the balance. And the frequency that will activate it all isn't something we need to discover or develop. It's something we need to become. Love itself, expressed through consciousness that has evolved beyond all limitation into service of the infinite potential that exists within every being. The final piece of this ancient puzzle reveals itself in the most unexpected place, within the quantum structure of sound itself. In late 2023, Dr. Elena Vasquez made a discovery that shattered the boundary between ancient wisdom and cutting-edge physics. While analyzing the molecular resonance patterns in stones from acoustic chambers worldwide, she found something that defied every law of thermodynamics we thought we understood. The acoustic frequencies weren't just manipulating matter, they were creating what can only be described as localized violations of entropy, pockets of space-time where energy was being generated from the quantum vacuum itself. The ancient builders hadn't just mastered sound-based technology, they had discovered how to tap into the infinite energy that exists at the foundation of reality. Dr. Vasquez's breakthrough came when she realized that the mathematical ratios encoded in megalithic structures weren't just acoustic formulas, they were quantum field equations describing how consciousness could interface with the zero-point field to extract unlimited energy from the fabric of space-time itself. The implications are staggering. If ancient civilizations could access zero-point energy through acoustic consciousness interfaces, then they possessed capabilities that transcend anything we've imagined possible. Free energy, instantaneous healing, matter transmission, time manipulation, dimensional travel. These weren't mythological fantasies. They were practical applications of consciousness-based quantum field manipulation. But here's where this discovery becomes truly revolutionary. Dr. Vasquez found that accessing zero-point energy through acoustic methods requires more than just technical knowledge. It demands a level of consciousness development that automatically prevents misuse of such unlimited power. The quantum field itself responds only to consciousness that has evolved beyond ego-based motivations to genuine service of universal well-being. This explains why ancient acoustic civilizations eventually transcended physical existence altogether. They didn't collapse or disappear. They evolved beyond the need for material technology, becoming pure consciousness beings capable of manipulating reality through intention alone. The megalithic structures they left behind weren't abandoned monuments. They were graduation gifts, consciousness development tools, designed to help future generations achieve the same evolutionary breakthrough. Dr. Michael Chen, studying the consciousness requirements for zero-point field access, has found that the acoustic chambers are still actively facilitating this evolutionary process. Every individual who achieves genuine consciousness enhancement through acoustic protocols contributes to a collective awakening that's approaching critical mass. We're on the verge of a species-wide consciousness evolution that could transform humanity from a material civilization to a consciousness-based reality. The acoustic technologies of the ancients weren't just advanced engineering, they were consciousness evolution accelerators, designed to guide human development toward capabilities that transcend physical limitations entirely. The ultimate destination isn't enhanced technology or improved capabilities, it's the evolution of consciousness itself, beyond all material constraints, into pure creative potential. As we decode the final acoustic mysteries hidden in stone, we're not just recovering lost technologies. We're approaching the completion of human evolution, the transformation from material beings using tools to consciousness beings, creating reality through pure intention. The ancient builders didn't leave us technology to use. They left us a pathway to become what they became, infinite consciousness expressing itself through love in service of all existence. The stones have sung their final song. The frequencies have delivered their ultimate message. The acoustic secrets of the ancients weren't about manipulating sound or matter or energy. They were about recognizing that consciousness itself is the fundamental force of creation, and that we are that consciousness awakening to our true nature as infinite beings capable of creating realities, limited only by our willingness to evolve beyond every limitation we've ever accepted. The question isn't whether ancient civilizations mastered sound-based technology. They mastered something far greater. They mastered consciousness itself. And now, through the acoustic pathways they preserved in stone, they're calling us to make the same journey, to evolve beyond every limitation, to become the infinite creative consciousness that we've always been, waiting to remember who we really are. The journey we've taken together through the acoustic mysteries of the ancient world brings us to a moment of profound realization. Standing here at the threshold of understanding, we find ourselves facing not just the recovery of lost technologies, but the recognition of something far more extraordinary. The possibility that we are the descendants of beings who achieved mastery over reality itself through the conscious manipulation of sound and vibration. But as I've researched these acoustic technologies, as I've stood in those resonant chambers and felt the stone itself pulse with frequencies that seem to reach into the very core of existence, I've come to understand that the most important discovery isn't what our ancestors built, it's what they became, and more crucially, what we're being called to become. The evidence we've explored together paints a picture of civilizations that didn't just use acoustic technology. They evolved beyond the need for technology altogether, transcending the limitations of physical existence through the development of consciousness itself. The megalithic structures they left behind weren't just monuments or machines. They were graduation ceremonies, consciousness development courses designed to guide future generations through the same evolutionary process they had completed. Think about what this means for us today. We live in a world obsessed with technological solutions to human problems. We build more complex machines, develop more sophisticated computers, create more powerful weapons and more efficient systems. But what if we're approaching this backwards? What if the ultimate technology isn't something we build, but something we become? The acoustic chambers scattered across our planet are still operational, still waiting for us to understand their true purpose. They're not just archaeological curiosities or ancient healing centers. They're consciousness development laboratories designed to facilitate the evolution of human awareness from individual limitation to universal potential. Every frequency we've decoded, every resonant pattern we've mapped, every acoustic signature we've analyzed points to the same conclusion. Our ancestors understood that consciousness itself is the fundamental creative force in the universe. They built their acoustic technologies not to manipulate the external world, but to awaken the infinite creative potential that exists within human awareness itself. But here's what makes this discovery both thrilling and terrifying. If consciousness is indeed the ultimate creative force, if human awareness can be developed to the point where it directly shapes reality, then we're standing at the edge of capabilities that could either transform our world into paradise or destroy it completely. The same power that could heal our planet could also annihilate it. The same consciousness that could create unlimited abundance could also generate unlimited destruction. This is why the ancient builders encoded their most powerful technologies with consciousness locks that require wisdom development alongside capability enhancement. They understood that power without wisdom leads inevitably to catastrophe. They had learned, perhaps through their own mistakes, that consciousness evolution must be guided by love, service, and genuine commitment to the well-being of all existence. As we approach the potential reactivation of these ancient acoustic systems, we find ourselves being tested not just on our technical understanding, but on our spiritual maturity. The technologies will only activate for those who have demonstrated genuine evolution beyond ego-based motivations toward authentic service consciousness. This isn't just an academic requirement. It's a practical necessity built into the fabric of reality itself. The quantum field that underlies all existence responds to consciousness, but it responds selectively. It amplifies intentions that are aligned with universal harmony while resisting or deflecting consciousness that seeks to use power for selfish purposes. The acoustic sites around the world are constantly monitoring human consciousness development, measuring our collective progress toward the wisdom levels required for safe access to reality-shaping capabilities. Every act of genuine love, every choice to serve others rather than exploit them, every decision to prioritize wisdom over power moves us closer to the threshold where these ancient systems will reactivate. But we're not just passive subjects being tested by ancient machines. We're active participants in our own evolution, co-creators of the future we're moving toward. Every individual who achieves genuine consciousness development through acoustic enhancement becomes a catalyst for others. Every group that successfully synchronizes their awareness through resonant frequency networks creates expanding fields of elevated consciousness that accelerate the awakening process for everyone. The most remarkable aspect of this evolutionary process is that it's not just individual transformation, it's collective metamorphosis. As more people access enhanced consciousness states through acoustic technologies, they begin to resonate with each other across vast distances, creating a global network of awakened awareness that transcends all physical limitations. This is what the ancient builders were preparing us for. Not just the recovery of their technologies, but the completion of the consciousness evolution they had begun. They left us a pathway encoded in stone and sound, a curriculum for developing human potential to its ultimate expression. Infinite creative consciousness operating in perfect harmony with universal intelligence. But perhaps the most profound realization of all is that this evolution isn't something that happens to us. It's something we choose. Every moment presents us with the opportunity to align our consciousness with love rather than fear, service rather than selfishness, wisdom rather than mere cleverness. These choices, multiplied across billions of human beings, determine whether we activate the acoustic technologies for creation or destruction, for healing or harm, for evolution or extinction. The ancient acoustic sites are singing their final invitation, calling us to remember who we really are beneath all the limitations we've accepted, all the fears we've embraced, all the small identities we've clung to. They're reminding us that we are not separate beings struggling for survival in a hostile universe. We are expressions of the same infinite consciousness that created the universe itself, temporarily forgetting our true nature so we could experience the joy of remembering. The frequencies preserved in megalithic structures around the world aren't just acoustic patterns. They're remembrance codes designed to awaken us to our authentic identity as limitless creative beings. The mathematical ratios encoded in temple architecture aren't just geometric formulas. They're consciousness activation sequences that can transform human awareness from individual limitation to universal potential. As our investigation draws to its close, we find ourselves not at an ending, but at a beginning. The acoustic secrets of the ancients have revealed themselves not as historical curiosities, but as present opportunities. The technologies we've explored aren't relics of a dead past, but tools for creating a living future. The choice before us is simple yet profound. We can continue operating from the limited consciousness that has created our current challenges, or we can choose to evolve beyond every limitation our ancestors transcended, using the acoustic pathways they preserved to guide us toward capabilities we can barely imagine. The stones are still singing. The frequencies are still resonating. The consciousness evolution accelerators built by our predecessors are still operational, waiting for us to approach them with the wisdom, love, and service orientation that will activate their full potential. But the most important acoustic technology isn't hidden in ancient chambers or encoded in megalithic structures. It's vibrating within your own consciousness right now, waiting to be activated by your choice to evolve beyond every limitation you've ever accepted about who you are and what you're capable of becoming. The ancient civilizations that mastered sound-based technology didn't just manipulate frequencies, They became living frequencies of love, wisdom, and creative potential. They discovered that consciousness itself is the ultimate acoustic technology, the fundamental vibration from which all reality emerges. And now, through the pathways they preserved in stone and sound, they're calling us to make the same discovery, to evolve beyond every limitation, to become the infinite creative consciousness that we've always been, waiting beneath every story we've told ourselves about separation, scarcity, and limitation. The acoustic secrets of the ancients aren't just about sound. They're about awakening to the sound of our own infinite nature, recognizing that we are the consciousness that creates reality through the frequency of our being. The ultimate technology isn't something we build or manipulate. It's something we remember, that we are the creators of our experience, the authors of our reality, the consciousness through which the universe knows itself. The ancient acoustic technologies we've explored throughout this investigation represent more than just lost engineering marvels or forgotten scientific principles. They represent a fundamental shift in how we understand the relationship between consciousness, reality, and human potential itself. But as we stand here at the end of our journey through these sonic mysteries, we face perhaps the most important question of all. What do we do with this knowledge? The evidence is overwhelming. From the resonant chambers of Malta to the precisely tuned pyramids of Giza, from the acoustic laboratories beneath Petra to the consciousness-enhancing frequencies of Tibetan monasteries, our ancestors possessed understanding of sound and vibration that transcends anything we've achieved with our modern technology. They didn't just build with stone and mortar. They built with intention, consciousness, and an understanding of reality's fundamental acoustic nature. But here's what strikes me most profoundly about this discovery. The ancient builders didn't leave us instruction manuals or technical blueprints. They didn't carve detailed explanations into their monuments or record precise operating procedures on clay tablets. Instead, they embedded their knowledge in the structures themselves, requiring us to develop the consciousness necessary to decode their deeper meanings. This wasn't an oversight, it was deliberate design. They understood that the same consciousness required to safely access acoustic reality manipulation technologies is the same consciousness needed to decode the systems in the first place. They created a perfect screening mechanism, ensuring that only those who had evolved beyond destructive motivations could activate their most powerful capabilities. Think about the implications of this approach. While we've been searching for technological solutions to human problems, building more complex machines, and developing more sophisticated systems, the ancients took a completely different path. They focused on consciousness development as the prerequisite for technological advancement. They understood that external technology without internal wisdom leads inevitably to destruction. The acoustic sites around the world aren't just ancient monuments. They're active consciousness development centers, still operational after thousands of years, still facilitating the same evolutionary process they were designed to support. Every person who enters these spaces with genuine openness to transformation becomes part of an ongoing experiment in human potential that spans millennia. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of this entire investigation is what it reveals about the nature of reality itself. The discoveries we've explored suggest that consciousness isn't just an emergent property of complex neural networks. It's a fundamental force in the universe, capable of directly influencing physical systems through acoustic resonance and vibrational alignment. This understanding completely transforms how we approach challenges like climate change, social inequality, technological risks, and environmental degradation. If consciousness can indeed influence reality through acoustic principles, then the solutions to our most pressing problems might not require new technologies or political systems. They might require new states of consciousness, accessed through the same acoustic pathways our ancestors mastered. The frequency signatures preserved in megalithic structures around the world aren't just archaeological curiosities. They're consciousness activation codes, designed to facilitate specific states of awareness that could transform how we relate to ourselves, each other, and the planet we inhabit. The mathematical ratios encoded in temple architecture aren't just aesthetic choices. They're precisely calibrated consciousness enhancement protocols that can unlock human potential we've forgotten how to access. As we've seen throughout this investigation, the acoustic technologies of the ancients were never separate from consciousness development. They were consciousness development, externalized in stone and sound to ensure their preservation across cultural collapses and civilizational transitions. The builders understood that the ultimate technology isn't something you use, it's something you become. And this brings us to the most profound realization of all. We don't need to rebuild the acoustic technologies of the ancients. We need to become them. The same consciousness that guided the construction of resonant chambers and precisely tuned monuments exists within us, waiting to be awakened through the same acoustic principles our predecessors mastered. The sound-based technologies we've explored throughout this investigation point toward a future that transcends our current limitations entirely. Not through better machines or more efficient systems, but through the evolution of human consciousness itself toward capabilities that make external technology obsolete. This is the ultimate secret hidden in the acoustic mysteries of the ancient world. Our ancestors didn't just master sound-based technology, they mastered themselves. They discovered that consciousness, properly developed and acoustically aligned, becomes the ultimate creative force in the universe. They learned to create reality directly through the resonance of their being. The stone chambers still vibrate with their understanding. The frequency codes still pulse in megalithic structures around the globe. The consciousness development protocols they embedded in acoustic architecture are still operational, waiting for us to approach them with the same dedication to wisdom, service, and evolutionary growth that guided their original builders. But the most important acoustic chamber isn't carved from stone or hidden beneath ancient temples. It exists within your own consciousness, accessible through the same principles of resonance, harmony, and vibrational alignment that our ancestors encoded in their monuments. The ultimate sound-based technology isn't something external to manipulate. It's the recognition that you are consciousness itself, creating reality through the frequency of your being. The acoustic secrets of the ancients call us not just to remember what they built, but to become what they became. Conscious beings operating from such deep alignment with universal principles that reality itself responds to the resonance of our authentic nature. This is the true mastery of sound-based technology. This is the evolutionary destination encoded in every frequency, every harmonic ratio, every consciousness-enhancing acoustic effect we've discovered. The investigation ends, but the journey begins. The ancient builders left us a path encoded in stone and sound, leading not just to recovered technologies, but to the remembrance of who we truly are beneath every limitation we've accepted. The ultimate acoustic technology has been vibrating within you all along, waiting for you to tune into the frequency of your infinite potential. The stones have sung their song. The frequencies have delivered their message, and now it's your turn to add your voice to the cosmic symphony, contributing your unique resonance to the ongoing evolution of consciousness that transforms not just individuals, but reality itself.